Hey everyone, thank you for so much for being here. We are celebrating this new book. My name is Dr. Melisa Cahnmann-Taylor. Most people refer to me as Misha, and I am professor of TESOL and World Language Education at the University of Georgia. And with me is my co-author,
Kathleen Rose McGovern, a newly minted doctor and a lecturer at UMass Boston. And I am going to ask you to start off by joining us in a brief theatrical warm-up. I'm going to stand up. Misha, would you like to stand up too?
Oh, great. I think we need to tell our audience, though, first what we're doing and why we're doing it. May I just let them know, just that little kind of... So probably if you are watching this video, you are a language teacher, maybe an English teacher, maybe you teach other world languages around the world. We have been doing that as well, and we happen to have a background in theater. So we've written a book where we bring in the playful, joyful, communicative games from the theater world and talk about and show you and play with how they can inform the language classroom. So without further ado, we always start with waking our bodies up, and Kathleen is so good at this. Take it away.
All right, so we're going to shake first with our right hand, right foot, left foot, and whole body. And as we do it, we are going to count down from first 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, then 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, down to 0. So ready? And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Ah! Ooh.
Great, great, great. We hope that in your language classrooms, you're getting beyond number countdowns, but there is no question that for native speakers to language learners of any language, it is super fun to wake up that way. Thank you for starting us off.
Oh, you're welcome.
You want to tell them a little bit about the book?
Sure. So on the left, you'll see the table of contents of the book. And in the first 2 chapters, we talk about some drama basics, the tenets of improv, which Misha will discuss in a second. And the bulk of the book really presents useful games for teachers working with language learners, all languages, all levels. And we start with getting to know you, creating trust and community, move through repetition, so rehearsing words and phrases to learn vocabulary sets and grammatical structures, up to longer improvisations, and finally discussions of social justice through theater. And one really unique thing about our book, I think, is that because we finished it during the COVID-19 pandemic, we really had to attend to how do we do this online? So in the appendices, we discuss, all right, this is how we can adapt so many of these games to online contexts, even if it's doing what we just did together, which is standing up in our own separate physical spaces and experimenting with our bodies.
That's great. Thank you so much. So in that chapter that we talked about drama basics, most of us who are trained as educators don't necessarily have drama basics because theater education, we wish that it grows. I'm from Chicago and Kathleen's from Boston, where theater is alive and well and a part of many school systems. This isn't always true around the world. We describe 4 tenets of improv comedy that we find have great value, both on the stage and in the language classroom. The first of which is simply to be present and pay attention. Actors have to be present with one another and pay attention to what's happening on the stage. They can't always just be planning their next move, or the production will be an utter failure. The same is true for the language teacher and the language learner. If you're a learner and you're planning what's ahead, you're not in the moment and attentive to the language and communication that's happening around you. So we make those connections in the book. Another is yes and, to try and build on what a fellow actor is offering you on the stage. The same is true in the language classroom. Errors or correct language use, yes and. How do we build on what learners can do to what they will be able to do with our assistance? We fondly call it R&R, how to teach learners and teach language teachers to take risks and practice being ridiculous. Do I still have my clown nose? I do. I think it's important for every language teacher to have some props around them. So whether it's a clown nose, a wig, or even just a piece of cloth that converts into a cape or any object, we talk in the book about the importance of and value of very simple props a language teacher can have, and how much fun it is to produce silly moments, because language learners never get it right all the time and must prepare themselves to look silly, right? Lastly, endowing scenes with meaning. Actors are always creating a moment for us on stage. Maybe they're changing the chronological time so we feel we're back in history, or maybe it's a futuristic story. Maybe we're in the desert. These things are what actors learn to do, and students and teachers can learn to create environments for rich and varied language learning in the classroom. You don't have to stay in the classroom. Anything, if you can think it and imagine it, you can live it in classroom language life. So how do you start? You don't need an acting background to do any of these games in the book. The first one is a very simple poetry in names game. We ask our students to share their names. It's sometimes really hard to learn 20, 30, 40, 50 students' names. So we have tricks to do that with music and with motions. So we ask students to collectively, if they're language learners, it's very helpful to share a Google Doc and write your name with your preferred gender pronoun and a word or two to describe oneself that either rhymes or has a sonic musical quality with your name, or starts with the same letter for alliteration. So let's watch how these language teachers did it in my Zoom classroom.
Myra, she's mighty, righteous.
I just want to do it with them.
Myra, she's mighty and righteous.
Alaeddin without Yasmin.
Here there's some confusion.
No. Do it like, once again, Aladdin,
Okay.
and then do it with us the second time. So don't wait for us. Yeah. Okay, go.
Alaeddin without Yasmin.
Aladdin without Yasmin.
It helps when they can teach you. And what a wonderful little sound of a little girl who was a teacher with her daughter in the Zoom classroom. You may have noticed that there were numbers with the names. So I always go into the Zoom screens and have students rename themselves in consecutive numeric order. Sometimes I'll change the order or ask the students themselves to rename with any given number between 0 and 100, just so that we can smoothly have transitions between who's speaking. And that's always so much fun.
And this game, 1, 2, 3, can also be played in person, as in the video, or online. So Misha, I wonder if you would play with me online.
Sure. Yeah.
Great. So in this activity, basically, the idea is in theater to practice gibberish. So attending to one another, being present in the moment, and being creative and taking risks. And we practice gibberish sets of numbers, so counting. But with language learners, we can actually learn new sets of vocabulary this way. So how about learning some Arabic, Misha?
Sure.
All right. So in Arabic, 1, واحد,
Wahid,
جوج,
Juj,
ثلاثة.
Taleta.
So واحد,
Juj,
ثلاثة,
Wahid,
جوج,
Taleta.
واحد,
Juj.
ثلاثة. مزيان بزاف. Very nice, very nice. So now we're going to look at the some of Misha's students in the garden outside playing the game with gibberish.
Oh, that's where they replace the numbers with the gibberish interpretation. Yeah, that's great. All ages have fun with that.
All right, so in the next activity, this activity comes from chapter 5, which focuses on repetition, repeating vocabulary sets or structures. And this activity is called The House is on Fire, Let's. And both actors take turns giving silly, ridiculous suggestions. The only rules are they can't make sense and you can't hesitate. And if you do, you have to put your hands up in the air and say, ah, and spin around. So let's take a look.
The house is on fire. Let's buy a snake. Oh. The house is on fire. You think you smell it? The house is on fire. Let's get a shoe. The house is on fire. Let's play with the balls. Let's eat tennis balls. Oh, the house is on fire. Let's eat these balls. The house is on fire. Let's run from the stove. The house is on fire. Let's take these balls. The house is on fire.
And although there we're practicing, obviously, let's, right? These are modals. We can switch out the modals, ought to, should. So in the book, we focus on, all right, we can use the same game multiple times so that students learn the structure and can experiment with different sets of language with their own ideas.
Yeah, their own ideas. That's what is so important for why to bring the arts into our language teaching and learning pedagogy. They teach, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with the Latin root of the word surprise. It has a lot to do with the Romance language sorpresa, or what's beyond grasp. And I think the reason we love the arts is because we don't know what's happening next. We're in the moment, we're present, we're paying attention, and we're looking forward for what's going to happen, because we don't know. And that's so important. So we build on that in chapter 6 with guessing games, because it's so fun to use language to really try to figure something out. So in this case, this is a game called Sports Commentator. We send the actors who are going to be the commentators out of the room, and the class decides what crazy sport they're going to comment on, but the commentators don't know. So the actor who's playing the sport has to really work on their gestures. So they are endowing the scene with meaning so the commentators can guess what it is. Take a look at this butter sculpturing.
Good afternoon. I'm Steve Stewart.
And I am Rhonda Jenkins.
And we're here today with a live broadcast from the pot holding competition.
She's making that column Grecian times. Oh no, she's scooping out of the column.
She's
scooping
dirt out of that bucket.
Spreading it all over.
Spreading that butter all over that bread. Eating her bread and butter. She's
much butter. She's high cholesterol.
She got so much butter it took an entire dairy.
Butter sculpture.
Just wonderful. So the whole class is waiting to see if they're going to get it. Everyone is involved and everyone's at the edge of their seat and they're using language meaningfully. This is a group of students in teacher education. The next video is one with language, both language teachers, TESOL teachers from around the world. So you'll see a Chinese speaker, English language teacher, and also again, I think maybe it's Elena again from Spain. And they're doing a very popular game called 3-Line Scene. The first actor begins with just a gesture without any words. And the second actor has to come in and endow it with meaning. And they're limited to 3 lines. So take a look.
No, don't use a water bottle as a telephone. It doesn't work like that.
Oh no. I need help.
Just so silly. Everyone's in the moment. Do you have time to share another one?
Sure. If I can make the thing advance. So the next scene is similar in that it focuses people on being present and paying attention, listening to each other. So these are 2 of Misha's students playing the 2-headed professor. You can see that they're wrapped together and they've been assigned the They've been assigned to be an expert on languages. The audience is going to ask them questions, and their job as one person with two heads is to speak simultaneously without planning ahead what they are going to say.
Hi, my name is Professor Charles Walker. Any questions?
Are there any questions from the audience about the language? Yes. How do you speak the language?
It is prone
Prone to tickling.
Prone to tickling.
Oh, that is so funny. So that game is really, in many ways, you can discuss in the classroom collocations, what words typically happen when you're asking and answering questions as a professor with students. I've also played that two-headed blind date. What are some things you say on a blind date? So it's really about endowing the scene with a context for a relationship and then rehearsing the kinds of language that is familiar in that kind of relationship. So a lot of times we focus on how much fun and engaging and present one can be when being ridiculous and taking risks. But Juan Trujillo drew our attention to moving beyond fun and games into what he calls not just building on Augusto Boal and Paulo Freire's word consciousness or concientização. He addresses the American Council for Teachers of Foreign Languages World Readiness Standards. That's our professional organization for language teachers in the US. They have focused on 5 C's. The C's are communities, cultures, connections, comparisons, and communication. And Trujillo put communication as the heart of those 5 C's and then wraps them all in consciousness. And by consciousness, he says it's important to recognize the role of language and culture in systems of privilege and oppression, and to promote equity and social justice in our language teaching classroom. So we believe that these games are more than just fun and games, but really actually can foster attention, presence, awareness, and awareness to aspects of power. And I think Kathleen will share a game with you about that.
Sure. This game was adapted from the work of Augusto Boal, whom Misha just mentioned. And the students that you can see in these pictures were assigned the task of creating a sculpture that illustrated power relations with chairs and a water bottle. You can see the different students' sculptures, and after they made their sculptures silently, everyone was asked to interpret it. And through this dialogue, after these activities, people engage in discussion of what's going on in their lives, in their communities, cities, countries, in the world. And then also, how can we effect meaningful change? So here you can see this done live, but in the next slide, we have a video, which is Misha's adaptation to Power with Chairs online.
Because I didn't know what's the interpretation of it. Then it hit me. It has 2 interpretations. One is, yes, is the Mother Earth that gives us the power to be powerful, okay, and to control our own life. And it's empty because we exhausted it with everything we do. We make it powerless. And another interpretation, we have to remind ourselves that we come from the Mother Earth, no matter what colors we are, from which race. So the colors represent the races.
Oh, we did not know this.
We come from one source, which is Mother Earth, and we have to remind each other of that. So that's my interpretation, guys.
Oh, all the more meaningful. Allah is from Palestine, and they were asked to simply find 5 of the same objects at their home. So when you're on Zoom, it's not realistic to have 5 chairs, you know, to show 5 chairs, but 5 objects that are the same. Some people grabbed 5 books. Some people grabbed 5 pens or pencils or crayons, as here, sticky notes. You know, really, it was even more creative on Zoom than I think it was in the classroom.
Great. So,
because I didn't know,
nope.
Because
So that brings us to when Misha and I present on drama and the arts and language education, we often are met with a lot of questions like, well, how could I do this with beginners? Or, well, my students are very advanced. How could I use drama for advanced to proficient learners? Some people think, my students are too shy or too serious. I don't think they would want to engage in fun and games. And then, of course, there are larger kind of societal questions that Misha has written about a lot in her own scholarship. Like, does the school, does our culture, do our institutions see the value in art in the classroom? And we answer these questions in the book. So I would encourage you to purchase the book and check out some of our ways for engaging productively in dialogue around these questions. I think both of us would say, yes, you can use drama, you can use the arts with people with little to no language or second language skills, proficient, in very strict curricula, and in all contexts and settings. Of course, we have to be mindful of differentiating instruction, making sure everyone is included, making sure we are creating a classroom atmosphere of equity and inclusion rather than exclusion. And with that, we'd like to say thank you.
Yeah, yes, and I was going to add to, we always talk about yes and in the book. It's very helpful to have friends around the world to play with. So just consider us your friends. We have example videos aplenty up online on my YouTube channel, and you can find so many wonderful opportunities. And we believe in your creativity and potential as well. So just as she said, sometimes the students are shy, teachers can be shy too. And while we may look not shy, I think I'm always have to take a deep breath and prepare myself and practice. Rehearsing makes perfect. So we hope we'll see you again. We are here if you want to reach out to us, kahnmann@uga.edu and kmcgover@gmail.com. Shoot us an email, stay in touch, and let us know if you have any questions about the book or you want to see a demo of something we haven't done, and we'd be glad to do it with you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.